My name is Robin Hofström. I'm a programmer at Goals. I do mostly technical art right now. So one very common criticism of football games is that they have really bad net physics, and I kind of like a challenge, so I wanted to see how good I could get it. I was looking at different methods to kind of solve this problem. You have a wide variety of ways to kind of represent cloth or a net. And I was looking at, doing it with fluid simulations basically, which is very similar to the final approach we took. But I also looked into doing it purely on the graphics card through shaders. But ultimately I went for essentially a physics simulation called a Verlet integration, which treats each part of the net as its own particle, and we constrain them together with physics forces. And that's also how you get this very fluent and responsive net, because it's essentially behaving like a real net. Because we are in such early stages, we don't have that much to show off yet. We're still working on a lot of the gameplay systems. A lot of the implementations are kind of, testing the waters to see how we're going to solve problems. And having good net physics this early, when you can actually play the game, is a great way to give the player feedback when they are scoring and hitting the goal net. It's going to be fun to see how it's holding up when there's more stuff in the scenes, on the levels. Because doing these kind of simulations are kind of performance heavy. We've done a lot to optimize it so it runs smooth on all hardware. But yeah, I think just keep improving it, making it look and feel good. So yeah, we're obviously taking some shortcuts because we can't have the net interact with every physical object in the game. So we're doing some kind of, trickery to make it look good, feel good. And one of those optimizations and tricks we're doing is basically we're treating the ball as this invisible force that can interact with the simulation, and we can then transfer the velocity from the ball and the momentum onto the net simulation, so we get these nice ripples of the ball sliding across the net. But there's a lot of stuff we don't tell you in game dev. We just make it look cool and appear correct, but what's actually going on behind the scenes is a lot more complicated and unrealistic. So basically what you're seeing right now is each cloth particle in the simulation, and each of these little black dots are connected to each other. And they continuously try to figure out, okay, what's the furthest distance I can be from my neighbors? And yeah, just continuously correct themselves, and they, you add influence to one particle, and that will propagate to all the surrounding particles, and that's how you get these waves and ripples. It takes time to actually get all the forces spread out over the entire net, and then eventually it's going to return back to its resting state, because it wants to be in equilibrium with the forces. And on top of that, we simulate gravity, so there's a pull on the net. That's why it's hanging from the roof, and yeah, it kind of wants to just return to its resting position. Yeah, so it's a pretty fun thing in game development, because most of the time people only see the finished result, so they don't really understand the process that goes into creating something like this. For this particular problem we were solving, we actually referenced the research papers on constraint physics, and we used kind of the formulas there that were defined, decades ago to kind of solve this problem. But now, when PC hardware is getting so good, we can do all of these things that were purely theoretical before.